have a chance to say hello in just a second. So if you wouldn't mind, just mute your microphone for,
Francesca's
for,
here.
okay.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Francesca.
Hi.
Well, there's Orla. Everybody's getting it. So anyway, I'll just continue going, and this will be the way it is. So this is the first experiment for us with K4C, our consortium, because we want to organize, a regular time for us to be able to get together, and we would like to be able to, to have conversations, on different topics, going forward. But we wanted to today, and for the, for one part of our group is meeting today, another part of our group, it's about 65 or so of you will be meeting tomorrow, and this is just a first experiment, to see if how we can do it and to learn how to do it. But the focus today, is to hear from you, how you are experiencing the pandemic in your location, how you're able to work if you are in your own hubs. What is the potential for us to do things together, virtually? How can we, show solidarity together, and what are some of the topics that we should have, going forward. So that's the general thing. And Suriani Suriani and I are co-hosts today. And tomorrow, the other K4C one tomorrow, some of you may be in both, will be Rajesh and Nandita. So Suriani, if you wouldn't mind going over the agenda, the program, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, of course. I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Priya who's helping us with the technological side today and supporting us with Zoom and whatnot. Thanks to Jigme and our friends at Priya who've set this up. So today's webinar would go roughly until 9:30 in the morning. We've set up to be about an hour and a half. And thank you for the lovely introduction, Bud. So we will start with a brief introduction of everyone because, we're in a huge consortium. Some of us have met each other. Some of us have only known our names through WhatsApp and other emails. So it'll be lovely to hear a little bit about who you are, what hub you belong to, and what you do. And then we're going to move on to our three panelists today. So we have Irma from Columbia Hub to say a few words, Leslie and from Northwest Free State Hub in South Africa to say a few words. And we've also have Andrea from Sassari Hub in Italy that will be joining us later today. And then once all three panelists have had the chance to say, some comments and a few words about today's topic, but will lead us into our discussion where everyone else could ask questions and share thoughts and whatnot. And then we'll be moving into the next steps of how we can bring this webinar expanded. What are the ways that we can do to support each other? And then would be our time to reflect, closing, and that will be it for today.
Any questions about the what we plan to do?
No, I think it's very clear.
Okay, so I would like you can just introduce yourselves. I don't see any particular order. I mean, in the gallery view, I see you in a particular order, but your screens may look very different from mine. So I think what I'll do is I'll call on people, and then you can introduce yourselves. and say, as Suriani said, your name and you know which hub you belong to and where you're living. And this is just a quick introduction because we'll have time to talk more about how we are experiencing the pandemic in just a little bit. So I'm going to ask Maggie if you would introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. I am from Toronto, a little north of Toronto in Canada right now, with the soon to be launched virtual K4C Toronto Hub. And sorry, what was the question again? Just who we are, how we're doing, or was there anything more?
Just that's enough at the beginning, and then we'll have a chance to talk more about how we're surviving, you know,
Okay.
the madness in a bit. But thank you very much, Maggie. Orla. Orla, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Orla here in Limerick. I'm in the Limerick Hub and I lecture in dance at the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance in Limerick. And I'm technically on leave, so I was supposed to be working remotely anyway. So now I'm just so remote, I don't know what I'm doing. Because I haven't been on a schedule since January. So
Thank you. Welcome, Orla. Corin.
Hi, everybody. I'm from the South African Hub in partnership with Northwest University, and thank you that we can have this webinar.
Thank you, Corin. Mary McTeer.
Hi there. I'm unmuted now, yeah. I'm based in Edge Hill University in the United Kingdom, but Orla will probably recognize my accent as being closer to hers than English, but from the north of the country. That's basically it. Leslie passed on this message today and I thought this seemed interesting, so I've kind of jumped in.
How did you get to Greece or wherever it is you are?
Virtual backgrounds. Isn't it nice?
Oh, okay.
Yes, how do you do
Very
that?
nice.
Yeah, it cheers me up.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Welcome. Rita, would you say hi and introduce yourself?
Rita Venugopal, India, Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, one of the hub in India with Priya. Hi, everyone. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Luisa, por favor.
Okay. Hi, everyone. How are you? I'm Luisa Gonzalez from Bogota. I'm part of the hub in Colombia. I'm really excited from being here and as you talk later, hear about this about the pandemic. I mean, those days has been so hard for all of us, and that's nice that we can share our experiences and talk with someone else. And hi to everyone.
Thank you very much, Luisa. Mirna. Mirna Meyer.
Actually forfeiting my game drive today to attend this, so I'm very happy to be with you. I'm a past student of Leslie Wood, and I'm also a creative arts educator. So I'm working in socially engaged ways, and like Mary, I'm at this stage, you know, in between. I don't belong to a specific hub, but I think I will soon sort of join the powers at Northwest and the Free State University.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome, Mirna. Jigme, you want to just say hello?
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Jigme and I am working with Priya, and I'm going to be helping out on the technical bit over here today.
Thank you so much, Jigme. We really, Priya is our technological gurus are all based in the Priya office. So we appreciate your help, Jigme, very much. Dr. T.
Morning, everyone. Afternoon or evening for some. Crystal Tremblay. I'm calling from traditional territories of Esquimalt, Songhees, and Wasanic First Nations people on Vancouver Island, Victoria. And I am with the Salish Sea Hub based at the University of Victoria, where I'm located.
Thank you very much. We've got Priyam Vada.
Am I audible? Mute.
No, you're still muted. You were Priya. You're still muted. There you go.
I am Dr. Priyamada Srivastava from Ravi Shankar University, Raipur. I am also associated with Sangwari Hub, which is the K4C Hub for CBPR. So we are working in that area. I am very glad to meet so many people on this webinar, so that we can know what is happening at global level. Thank you for associating me with you all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much for joining. Alphonse, Ireland.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's good to see some people I have seen before and to meet new ones as well. So my name is Alphonse, and as Bod said, I'm from the hub, Limerick hub, but I have been living in Africa, East Africa for well, since I was born. But for the last 15 years or 16 years, I've been living in Ireland. So, and it's good to see you all. I have not seen you for a long time as well, because of the way everybody now is hiding somehow. So it's good to see you guys, and thank you very much for this initiative.
Yes. Thank you, Alphonse. You're very welcome. I see it looks like Isabel. Would you like to say hello?
Hi, everybody. So I'm happy to see some familiar faces and meet new ones as well. I see Maggie and Wendy and Michael from the Toronto Hub, my colleague Crystal from UBC, and I'm here with, so it's my name, I'm under OCIC office because I work at the Ontario Council for International Cooperation, and I'm here with my colleague Eugenia Ochoa, who's going to be supporting some CBPR initiatives that we're doing in June. And for those of you who don't know where Toronto is or what land this is part of, we are on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Métis, and the territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. And it's home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. So we're in Toronto, which is kind of Eastern Canada. So for those of you who don't know.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Kathy Cruel.
Good morning, everyone. Good
morning. No, you're muted again. There you go.
There, does that work?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Kathy Kroll. I'm Special Advisor to the Provost at the University of Victoria, and I've been a community engaged researcher in Latin America for most of my career. I work with Bud and with Crystal, and it's good to see several faces that I met at a few gatherings. So looking forward to this.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Eugenia Ochoa.
Hello, as Isabel said, I work with her at OCIC, the Ontario Council, and I'm looking forward to learning today. I'll leave it at that, as Isabel gave a good intro.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eugenia. Very welcome. Anuradha? Oh.
Chakravarti. I'm working with Ravi Shankar Shukla University. Right now, I'm the guest lecturer over there for the CBPR approach. I do the teaching over there. And I'm just enjoying the CBPR approach in the COVID thing. Taking it as a COVID festival rather than a pandemic. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hi.
Thank you very much. Francesca, Sardinia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Francesca. I'm a social worker, and I come from Sardinia, Italy, Sassari Hub. I'm a part of the first cohort of K4C.
Great, thank you. I can see your picture too. Thank you, Francesca. Monsieur Michael Cassidy.
Hello, hello. Thank you. So happy to be here and see everybody and meet new faces. I work with University of Toronto in Canada with my other Canadian colleagues. I'm on the Toronto Hub, and I'm in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia for the last month and for the unforeseeable future. And this is where I'm based.
Family is living there. Is that, so you may be there a long time, Michael?
That's right, yeah. That's where we live. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, good. Let's see, I think Priya International, that must be, perhaps that's Nandita. Is that Nandita? Anybody there from Priya? It says Priya International on my screen.
Well, but this is Kostov.
Oh, hi, Kostov. Kostov.
I'm just behind the scene.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much for all the support. I know you're one of the webinar gurus from India, so that's good. It's great to have you here. Thank you. Irma, we've got Irma. Wendy from OIC from Toronto.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Wendy. I work at OISE at the University of Toronto with Michael, and I'm part of the Toronto Hub. And it's nice to see you both, familiar faces and new ones. And thanks for organizing, Bud and team.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. Lovely to hear your voice. And there you go. That's great. Elsab, am I pronouncing that right? Elsab Vessels?
Yes, you pronounced it correctly. Guys, I keep my video off because I don't have a good signal. I stay in South Africa, in a rural area, and I work with Leslie.
Okay, very good. Well, you're very welcome, Elsab. It's lovely to have some of the community partners. I think I see the name of my very good mountain climbing friend, Noor. I wonder if that's true. Noor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Noor Yudi from Indonesia. It's good to see all of you, especially Uncle Bud.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. In Indonesia, it's in the 10 p.m. in Indonesia now.
Okay. Thank you, Yudi. You're very welcome. You can probably also participate tomorrow because there'll be a second one. But it's good you come today because then you'll be an expert by tomorrow. Let's see. Who have I missed? I've got Ansi Kitching. Am I saying that right?
You're saying it right. Hello, everybody.
Yes, hello.
I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm at University of the Western Cape, and I also work closely with Leslie Wood. Great to see all of you and to meet some of you that she talked about.
Wonderful, thank you. You're very welcome, Ansi. My very good friend Darshan, it looks like from Malaysia, from Penang. Is that true? Try again, Darshan. I saw you clicked on at one point, but well, Leslie Chan, are you on?
I am, I think.
You are.
Hi, everyone. I'm calling in from Toronto, where I'm a member of the Toronto Hub, which is still emerging as we speak. So hopefully you'll hear more of how we're doing as we go later on this summer. And some of my colleagues are on this call as well.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. Miuri, are you on?
Yes, hi. I also work with Leslie Chan at the University of Toronto Scarborough, so joining just to hear the conversation. So I'm basically administrative support for the K4C Toronto Hub.
Okay. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Thanks for your support for the hub. In Katha Mercy, it looks like you may be here. Is that true?
True.
Where are you?
I am in Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay.
6:30.
6:30, great. So you may also be one of the ones who has the opportunity to be on both today and tomorrow. So you're very welcome. You're very welcome, Nkatha. That's great. Did I get everybody? Is there anybody who didn't have a chance to say hello? In that case, I think I'll ask Suriani if you will introduce Irma.
Hi, yes. So I guess I should also introduce myself because
please.
everyone know me. So my name is Suriani. I'm based in UVic, working closely with Bud, but I'm also a PhD candidate at UVic as well. Some of you might have received an email from me every now and then. I help Bud to coordinate the K4C Consortium. So today we'll begin with Irma to talk a little bit about CBPR. The umbrella of the topic is CBR and the pandemic today and tomorrow. So the panelists, will be touching on, if how's the situation where they're at, if their K4C hubs are doing anything in the midst of pandemic or planning something. What are they doing locally, and how can we support each other in more of an international scale within the K4C Consortium, as well as how we can support those who are practicing CBPR and not part of the K4C Consortium. So if I may, I would like to pass the floor to Irma to introduce herself a little bit and also to talk about today's topic. Irma, please.
Thank you, Suriani. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm Irma Flores. I belong to the first cohort of the MTP, and I coordinate the Hub Colombia. I am psychologist and associated professor at the Faculty of Education of the University of Los Andes in the city of Bogota, Colombia. Well, I don't know if I start to talk about what we are doing and what we are facing in Colombia, yes?
Yes, Irma, please.
Suriani? Yes, okay. Well, first of all, I am very glad and grateful to be able to share with the K4C Consortium community the experience that Hub Colombia has had in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. First, I want to thank Doctors Hall and Tandon for organizing this important initiative in which we can share ideas to face this important challenge we have as humanity. I feel a great responsibility to be the first to speak on this panel because I think it's important that I start saying intelligent things. But maybe it's better to start with the feelings that this situation has brought and how it has affected my sensitivity and my heart. At first, I had the feeling of knowing that something serious was happening in China with the virus, feeling sad for all the people that was affected, but it was far from us. Then the feeling that this situation began to spread to Europe and how the situation in Italy and Spain was worsening, partly due to the lack of collective protection measures for the community in those countries, start to make me aware of the dangerous situation we can also going to face. The sad and painful news that came through the formal and informal media and from friends living in these countries began to flood everyday life until one day. Then the first person with coronavirus arrived on a plane that came from Italy to Colombian land. And then I started feeling uncertainty and scared. Surprise, uncertainty, fear, also assertive reactions and quick responses and decision-making by some instance of the Colombian government, trying to quickly learn from the tragedy that was underway in countries such as China, Spain, Italy, Iran, among others, began to fill the environment here in Colombia. The reality was imminent. The coronavirus arrived to our poor country that doesn't have the necessary infrastructure to respond to the spread of the virus and its consequences. It was necessary to take quick, accurate measures that apparently threatened freedom and democracy. Today, I believe that the way in which the Colombian authorities have acted has allowed the crisis to be managed in a country with lack of resources. At this moment, it is still uncertain what will happen in the short term. And on the other hand, and despite the fact that the situation has been managed, the inequality and injustice gaps are evident in terms of social security, access to education through virtuality, the ability of different sectors to respond to the crisis, connectivity problems, the disadvantage of being a country whose inequalities, corruption, abuse of power, among many other problems, are historical and imminent. In this context of uncertainty, we are trying to do our best, knowing that we don't know what is to do the best. Considering that we are all learning as we go to confront a silent enemy that apparently is here to stay and challenges us to make paradigmatic changes in many fields and systemic levels. By this, I mean that changes have to occur from individual levels that lead us to think ourselves as part of a community, and in macro levels to recognize the interdependence between all of us, the importance of solidarity for the common good, justice, democracy, and many other things that we need to make a real change of planetary consciousness. Maybe all this sounds naive, but I think this moment requires that we mobilize with the brain and the heart, as Paulo Freire and Orlando Fals Borda would recommended us for this historical moment to act. Well, with all these things in mind, I will briefly answer to the panel's questions regarding what Hub Columbia is doing to address this new moment. About what are we doing in the midst of the pandemic, it is important to mention that part of the measures that the Colombian government established to guarantee access to education during the lockdown in different educational institutions was to continue classes in the virtual modality. This brought with a great challenge for educational institutions that in institutions such as the University of Los Andes, in which I am professor, imply that within a week we redesign our courses to offer them virtually. This has involved a great effort from the institutions, the educational authorities, the technical and pedagogical support teams in the institutions that they have them, the teachers, the students, the parents, to bring up this task. In this space, the members of the Hub Columbia have tried to reflect with our colleagues and students about the challenge that this pandemic implies for education and life in general, and what could be the possible solutions that we can contribute to change the way of thinking about education. In the second question, what are you currently doing locally in your hubs and how? We are participating in different initiatives similar to this one, webinars, panels, in which we are raising the need to reflect on the role and responsibility of education in general and higher education in particular, to take on the challenges that emerge from this situation for education and other stuffs. In cases where it is possible, we maintain constant communication with the communities with which we are developing projects through WhatsApp and some video calls when connectivity allows us to do so. We are also supporting communities near the university through food donations and other things. We maintain constant communication between the members of the hub and try to reflect together what to do. In the next question, what is the potential for us to do things given the restricted moment and or lockdown that we are experiencing? We consider that the most important for us as a consortium is the exchange of ideas about how to face the pandemic collectively, how to promote a cultural change that allows us to democratize knowledge and strengthen the participation of communities through the ways in which they have faced this challenge. This exchange of ideas can help us feel support and enriched. I think we have to think of new forms of interaction, new forms of care at different levels, from micro to macro ecosystem speaking. Reflect on our anthropocentric ethic to transform it towards a planetary ethic where all forms of life on the planet are considered living together. About what can we do together to support each other in the K4C Consortium? Do we already have examples? Well, we think that webinars, panels that, for example, Priya had made, let's start to discuss how to solve and cover the situation. And if we want a change in planetary consciousness, we have to unite to work on it. I think that this is what I want to share with you. And finally, I think that all of these things I'm saying, I'm in a very, very good place to tell you all these things, because I have the way to interact with you. I am working at home. I have food. I have all the things I need. When I know that many people in the country don't have the way to interact, they have to work every day. They have to expose themselves, and I am so grateful with all the people who is working to care people that are sick in the hospitals, the people that came and take the food to all of us. I am so grateful with all people that are doing this. I think that's the information that I have from Hub Colombia, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Irma. Very eloquent and powerful thoughts. I see that Andrea has now joined us. Andrea is the coordinator and one of the actual, really the founders of the K4C Global Consortium. He's been involved with us from the very, very beginning. And he's the coordinator of the Sassari. Sassari is a major city in Sardinia in Italy, which, as we know, has been hit so very hard by the coronavirus. So, and I know Andrea has got 2 young daughters at home. He's and his wife are home, and they haven't been going out. And he's also working on a proposal that is due today or tomorrow at the EC. So Andrea, we are so very, very grateful that you could find a bit of time. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing, a few thoughts as to how you are, you and the Sassari Hub are seeing the situation, and what do you think we could be doing together as a consortium? Andrea.
Hello everybody. Thanks, Bud. Hope you're all well. Please excuse me for stepping in late, but we tried also to be consistent with family solidarity and gender solidarity. So we turn with my wife with the kids, and with taking care of the house as well. My wife now has gone out to get some things done. So there might be kids jumping in some moment, but I will try to say something that makes sense in this whole situation. Not sure though. What shall I say? Sassari Hub, of course, we've been some 45 days in lockdown now. So that's a long time, and quite difficult to cope with, especially because Italy and my very hometown is adopting a quite strict regulations on this. Astonishingly, Italian people, I think they reacted surprisingly well, if I may say so. Of course, there's people going around. Of course, there's people that sort of don't care or seem to ignore some restrictions. But as a general rule, it is interesting that a country which is not known for its civic tension and its civic capacity, it is acting in a very civic way. There's well, you have seen expressions, colorful expressions of solidarity in Italy, you know, people singing and dancing from the balconies. Of course, this was at the very beginning. Now this whole has come down a little bit, but as a general rule, this whole thing, I think there is a lot to learn from this situation. And one thing that we're all learning is that no one will get out of it alone. So this is an important issue, is about first solidarity as a way to work out, to face emergency situation. And the other thing is that that we're learning is that there is no one solution. So medicine doesn't have the final solution, although everybody's hoping in a vaccine, although everybody is hoping in a cure. But we are understanding that science is not omniscient. We need to mobilize different kind of knowledges, and this is very important. Science is not able to foresee how people will react, for instance, to a lockdown. We've seen attitudes that were not foreseeable in the very beginning, both in a negative way, so people running to supermarkets and getting everything, although communication was very clear about that, but also very solidaristic attitudes. There's people who are refusing state help because they say, no, I have enough, so let's give this money, because state is giving money to the more deprived people. They're saying, no, I don't need this, leave this to others. We're seeing taxis offering free rides to medical personnel. We see there is a use in Naples. There used to be this use in this use is. Can you hear me? Because I see that the connection is not so good.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So this use is like you go to a bar to have coffee, and you pay for a coffee and you leave it there. This so the next person who is in need cannot really pay for this coffee, can get a free coffee there. This is called suspended coffee. So this thing has expanded. So people are having suspended groceries, for instance, and things like that. So there's a lot of mobilization in that sense. It's very spontaneous. It's not governed. But there is a lot of such things going on. So there's a lot of potential in a lot of things that are far beyond the domain of science, the domain of rational, so to say, knowledge, of rational behaving. There's a lot more. So this is a potential that we have to look at with a lot of attention. As far as we are concerned as a K4C hub, it must be said that in these 45 days, it took quite some time for us to get things running again somehow, especially so running the business as usual things, teaching and doing research and working together and meeting. This all took some time. And as I heard Irma was saying before, we're very fortunate to have the instruments to do that, to do this, both the capacity, and the computers and the internet connections to do this. So not all our community partners have this. So we have an actual difficulty in connecting with community partners, although the best way to do this for us up to now has been through mobile phones. Of course, you know that mobile phones are very much used by anyone in an unstable position must rely on something, which is mobile phones. From migrants to irregular workers, they rely on mobile phones. So if I could say there is an instrument we should try to use in order to connect with people, mobile phones might be the way to do this, because they're very much in use, and people and excluded people and people in difficult situations, they are quite knowledgeable with mobile phones and apps and things like that. So this is something we tried, along with our school community school partner, to mobilize some of the, we have a program right now with women in Santa Maria di Pisa, which Bud and Rajesh know because they visited there. It's our favorite community, so to say. Is our, so to say, I don't like to call it a laboratory, but it actually is a community lab where citizens are involved in exploring new ways of working out things. So it's a community lab. The idea of a lab, I don't like it because it looks like, there's something, always some scientist observing the laboratory and observing somebody moving in the laboratory. This is not the case. It's a laboratory in the sense that we elaborate things together. So, so one of the first things is that since these women, we're trying to empower them through a program which is about suing and setting up a how can you call this a community? They call it sartoria di quartiere. So it's a neighborhood. When you make clothes and things like that and repairs. So the first thing was to involve them in a program to sew and to prepare masks. Somebody is doing that, of course, but there is not much mobilization. So this is another issue, is that it's about agendas, both which concerns us both as universities in a way, but also as it concerns our university partners. In emergency, people they establish, of course, their priorities, and very often engaging or stable engagement, non-spontaneous, structured engagement is seen as a luxury, which actually is not. But most of us, including our institutions, they tend to think that engagement is something more, it's an add-on. Okay, we have our core business and then comes engagement. And very often when you have primary needs, you look at primary needs first, then you look at the other. If satisfying these needs implies community mobilization, then community mobilization comes in. But if it's not automatic, you know, if you need an engagement that goes, that lasts, that is, goes on over time, then people might not think it is so urgent to use resources to engage in a long time effort, because they have more pressing daily needs. They need to bring food at home. They need to pay for the rent, which are not things that people see as addressable through solidarity, immediate solidarity, or at least not on a long term. Not on a long term. I don't know if I made myself clear on this, because my thought is not so clear. But I think there is an issue with time, with the fact that we always want to have structural engagement, not episodic engagement. And of course, emergency brings out a lot of episodic engagement. The issue is, how do we build on this episodic engagement to have more structural engagement? I guess this is an issue that we should work on, both on our community, on our community partner side, and on our university side, which is much more a problem. A lot of universities will be facing real problems in the near future, because, you know, in the US or in all the Anglo-Saxon world, for instance, the people are saying there's going to be a shortage of Chinese students. So, you know, and also of international students. So what will universities do? They will concentrate more on local students. They will concentrate more on this core business, which is seen as a core business, rather than a core mission. So they're going to leave aside more than before, this is my feeling, engagement. Of course, in present time, they can see that engagement is important. But in the long run, they will have to, also universities will have to face the problem of surviving, especially small ones like mine, in context, social contexts that are not so rich, like mine, or like many K4C hubs. So,
what do you think, Andrea, could we do together in the consortium, given, you know, the situation we're experiencing?
As I said elsewhere, and some other, I think we should, as we have done up to now, support each other. This is very important, and I think that this, you know, I'm sort of realizing this as I speak, because I think I don't have a clear idea on this, but yes, this supporting in each other is about using this mobilization for it to last. For instance, we can show and we must insist on the fact that engagement is useful, is something that can help beyond emergency. So we need to, in a way, convince our societal partners in our institutions that this is good to last. It cannot, I mean, the pandemic emergency actually shows that we were unprepared. But we were unprepared. Why? Because we're systematically dismantling all the mechanisms that favor mutual support.
Yes.
In Italy, like in most Western European countries, Western countries, we are coming from decades of systematic dismantling of the sanitary system, and we are a total shortage of capacity. we haven't built. There has been a lot of rhetoric about, building the capacity of the community to of household to take care of own of the people in a way. But this has been mainly a policy, a spending review policy, rather than an actual movement to empower community to be prepared to act instead of the public hospital, of the public structure of hospitalization is not good for anybody. But and so there's been a lot of rhetoric. Let's get people out of the hospitals of any institutions. But then that was much more for cutting spendings rather than for building something in the community that was actually able to take care of people. So the costs for this, the social costs for this, they've just have been moved out of the public budget, but they went somewhere else on the shoulders of the community.
Andrea, thank you. Your insights, as always, are so very thoughtful and really give us so very, very much to think about. I think in the interest of time, we'll thank you just now. And Suriani, if you could introduce Leslie, please.
Of course. So our third and final panelist today will be Leslie Wood from the Northwest Free State Hub in South Africa. Leslie.
Right, I'm unmuted now. Okay, thanks very much. And thanks to Rajesh and Bud and everybody for setting this up. I think it's very important that we do get together. And it's just so nice to be able to see so many people that we spent a lot of meaningful time with. I didn't really prepare much for this because we only heard during the middle of the night last night that this was happening. So I'm just going to talk about what is happening here. Unlike the other two speakers, our hub in South Africa, which is collaboration between Northwest University and University of the Free State, has not really been able to get started. Because this whole pandemic has just turned, as elsewhere, the whole world on its head. And higher education is really, really struggling here to cope with it. So like everywhere else, what the other people have said is happening here too. I mean, those people who have the least status in society normally, like our nurses and our truck drivers and people servers in shops, I mean, they are keeping the whole country going now. And I think that's something we need to think about in this, and how we just change our whole attitude towards people and stop seeing them, start seeing them as people and what they have to offer, and not just as positions and so on. And I feel as an academic, and I know my colleagues as well, actually quite helpless. We're in third week of lockdown. I think it's going to go on much longer. Our universities are really struggling to cope. We don't have the technology. Well, we have it, but we haven't been using the technology that perhaps the rest of the countries, the more developed countries, have been doing. And at the moment, as part of the sort of management of the faculty, we're sitting in long meetings trying to figure out how do we get teaching and learning to continue. Community engagement has never been as important as community-based research. Now nobody's even thinking about that. How do we actually get teaching and learning going? And we're coming up with strategies like, okay, we're giving students, we know not all students have access to technology, so we can give them laptops, we can give them cell phones, we can give them data, but some students don't even have electricity. They don't have environments that are conducive to studying. So the students have actually started a movement now to say that they don't want any teaching and learning to go forward until they can come back to on campus and they can get back into the residencies because they are being unfairly disadvantaged. And, you know, so it's very, very difficult. What do you do? It's true. Some of the students are totally disadvantaged, living in rural areas and so on. But, and I can see it happening like that at the Fees Must Fall, where the students just refuse to cooperate. So those are the kind of challenges we are facing in teaching and learning. We were trying to, our hub, as I say, was new. We haven't started doing anything. We were planning to launch in September. We'd made sort of invited Bud or Rajet out to help us launch it and so on. We were planning to work, to do our first training with people from my entity, which is Community-Based Educational Research entity. But we had to cancel that. We also had, which was very heartening for us, the people from the ethics committee in the faculty wanting to come on and do this training as well. So we were all raring to go, but now we just can't do it. And our staff are really struggling to get to grips with online education. And even ODL, we have a large open and distance learning, but the students are used to going to centers to access the technology there or to get printed materials. We can't even send them at the moment. The whole country is basically locked down. As you know, in South Africa, we have so many people with comorbid diseases, HIV. And we don't know what to believe, because some people are saying, if you're on ARVs, you've got some protection against COVID. Others are saying that's not true. We have people with TB. We have people with high blood pressure. It's the amount of comorbid diseases is huge. Luckily, our president, I think quite surprising to most of us, because we are not used to such strong leadership from the government, but he has stood up and he has basically shut everything down, to the fact that people are not, even the alcohol, the tobacco, because I think he's trying to stop people from drinking, and then we know the domestic violence is huge here as well, to stop that. What is happening though is organized crime is growing now because of those things, as usually happens. We've had some really good responses. People are, even government, giving up some of the salaries and donating it towards funds. The government has organized food parcels and so on. The question I have is, why wasn't this being done before? Because the poverty is there, and I think that some of the people in the communities don't actually see a difference, because they've never had anything anyway. They were starving every day. So now it's actually, at least the government is stepping up and doing something. They're talking also about increasing grants. So the leadership has been good, the response has been good, but as usual, we're living in two different worlds. We have the middle class, like myself, and all of us sitting in comfortable houses, as Irma was saying. We have food, we have everything, we have technology, and we're working. So we're carrying on as normal, we just can't get outside. And then we have the rest of the country, the majority of people who just don't have that, and they're just walking around as normal. They're trying to hustle every day to try and get some money. They have allowed the informal traders to get licenses, but then people are also corrupt now. They're issuing false licenses. Some government officials have been accused of manipulating food parcels and so on. So I think we're still at the beginning, and nobody really knows how this is going to pan out in the country, because I think we just managed to level off the amount of positive. We've hardly got any testing compared to more developing countries as well. But once this takes hold, then I don't know what is going to happen, and I think it's just going to be worse. So I don't see us being free. I think we'll end up with, like Italy and Spain, having lockdown for a long time. So our hub, what can we do as a hub at this point in time? there's not much we really can do because our universities are focused, and the people that we would be wanting to train are busy with the teaching and learning. So we need to perhaps think about getting our stuff online. I'm so impressed with the Canadian Hub and what they've done, but I don't see us being able to do that until things have calmed down and teaching and learning is back to normal, because we just won't get the support from the university. What else? Yeah, so I think there's a lot of potential, like any sort of global incident, like war. This is a war in a way. Good things are going to come out of this, and I hope that it will open up a space for us. At this point in time, for instance, Michael, who's a community partner of mine, he was said he was going to join, but he obviously just doesn't have the data or the signal to get in here. We can actually go into the communities. At the moment, you need permits. It's only the big NGOs and the governments that are being allowed in to do things. So, yeah, that's the situation down here. What's apart from trying to get online, I think that's what we need to do. I need to get the hub together. Karen is also my partner, who's also online here. She's also very busy using this time to finish her PhD. So, yeah.
Leslie, that's terrific. That's terrific. I appreciate, your, frankness, and all of you have, in one way or another, we're living in very uncertain times. We don't know, all of us are in some ways just kind of day-to-day situations. So the ability to, the feeling like we have to have some, grand vision or, a fantastic narrative that's going to pull us all through is the day changes are such that we're just not in that kind of a situation. I'd like to turn to open up. Let's take. We've got. We're going to do this again. So those of you who won't get a chance to speak, we will be doing this again in a in a more where we'll have more interactive time. But we wanted to get this started and with a few people that would start it. But let's take 10 minutes. And I think the best way to do that is if you use the chat function, you'll see if you push the chat button in the bottom, it'll open that thing up. And if you want to say something, then put your write your name. Just say, I want to, I'd like to speak, and then I'll call on you. So you go ahead. Who would like to say something about their situation, or particularly about what we can do together, in the future? The floor is now open in the chat box. Orla, please.
It was very interesting to hear that even in coming from different issues, that some of the same problems are confronting all of us. And I think one of the things that we could do is to make a list, first of all, of the episodic interventions, because we all have some of those, and that might be a boost for helping to get the more structured ones going, because the structured ones take more time and the planning, whereas I think the episodic interventions might give us heart while we're developing something more long-term. So I don't think it's either or, I think it's both and I think it could be very nice if we almost did a mosaic of episodic interventions and use it as a building block for something more structural. So that could be something we could do quite easily. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I do feel, and I know this is my field, but that people who work in the arts have made fantastic contributions, as well as the medics, to try and keep people's mental health going. And that's something that can go across class. You don't need anything except a body. We all have one of those, fortunately. So I think that we should celebrate that in whatever way that we can. So that's just a thought for starters.
Thank you, Orla. Leslie?
Hi. I was wondering if I could have a follow-up question with Leslie. Leslie, you mentioned that the students in South Africa are mobilizing and resisting the kind of massive move online. I'd like to find out more about it, and because I see that in my own university, students are being herd into you know, engagement where they have no say in how they want to participate.
Yeah.
And there are a great deal of anxiety and suffering going on.
Yeah, I think it's very simplistic to say, okay, now we just move online, when a lot of students just will then be excluded. A lot of our students are excluded at the moment because of the poor schooling. So they come into university with a disadvantage. Now this is just making it even worse for them. And quite a few academics, there's been a petition going around as well. A lot of academics are supporting that as well and saying we cannot just, you know, go online and rethinking about how we do education. And to me, that is maybe one of the good things that come out of here. We're not asking the students, what is it you want to learn? How do you want to learn? I'm sure they would come up with some solutions themselves if you got them into groups and said, okay, here's a problem. We don't know how to solve it. We've got some suggestions, but if they don't, you know, suit you, what do you think? I mean, our students are not stupid. We treat them as other stupid, but I'm sure they would know what to do. And it's the same with our community members. Nobody's really asking them. We're giving, okay, we have to, you know, basic needs, food, parcels, the rest. But I'm sure there's a lot of potential in community if we could just say to them, okay, what is it you think that could be done? How can we help you as a university? Because at the moment, in my university and the few others that I've been having contact with, people are kind of immobilized. They don't know what to do. They feel helpless. Or they're just focusing on, okay, we'll just try and get through the academic program. And you know, how much use is that academic program going to be in this new world that's emerging? So I could perhaps, Leslie, if you want, send you some links to some of the stuff that's going around. Okay.
Anybody else would like to say something? Just put your name there in the chat box and then I will call on you. Yes, Andrea.
Yes, I just wrote in the chat about our capacity, try to support each other in our capacity to act as catalysts. What I mean by that word is that what we can do is actually, you know, in this time, everybody's coming up with solutions. But actually, we're not stopping enough to see what the right answer, the right questions are. So one thing that we're planning to do, we haven't started this yet, we have started a little bit, but not so structurally, is to connect systematically with our community partners to try to elaborate a common understanding of what is going on. This is really important. As academics, we have this reflection, this automatic thing, you know, we see the problem, we try to analyze it with our own instruments. Whereas elsewhere out there, there is a lot of, you know, capacity in mobilizing, thinking and understanding and raising questions. This is something very important for us to do, you know, with CSO partners, with community partners, with the rest of the people out there. So this is something we want to do, and I think in a way it would be interesting if somehow, this is what I proposed in the past, some occasion for confrontation on this could be with our international partners. I think this would bring a multiplicity of visions. You know, here we're not very much aware of what is going on and what the problems, the size of the problems are in India, for instance. But when I participated, there was the webinar organized by Priya, a lot of things resonated very, very strongly with what is happening here. So this is important for us and for our community partners to be able to get in touch with other situations, other way of thinking. So enlarge the questioning community, so to say. I think this could be very important.
Yes, Mary, I'm going to please speak, and I'm going to that. Mary, you're going to be in the in respecting everybody's time. We've got 10 minutes left, so Mary, you'll be the last speaker, and then Suriani and I will say something about next steps and do a wrap up. So Mary, you please, your floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. It's just I've been absolutely fascinated listening to these stories and agreeing how much resonance there is globally with all of the things that we are experiencing. And I've just kind of two observations to make at the moment. One of them is I am concerned, and Leslie, you have raised it, and it has been raised by other people, about the possibility for kind of this to cause further systemic inequalities. And, my son, for example, is a primary school teacher, and the children that he now teaches are meant to be homeschooled. Some homes maybe have one internet connected device with very little data on it or wireless signal, and maybe 4 children to homeschool with parents who really don't feel competent to even structure their children's days sometimes. And these are children for whom school is a place of refuge very often, and it's certainly a place where they get fed, where they may not, have such secure home circumstances. So, and I'm actually seeing this strangely even with my own students who are professional people coming back for masters and, doctoral level studies. Their own home conditions aren't always as perfect as we might think they are. And I'm seeing it in terms of the impact on staff. We are having a huge push in our university to make sure that the quality of the student experience does not suffer. And I go, what about the quality of the staff experience? We're dreadfully lonely. Some of us live alone. Some of us live quite far from our families. Some of us have, family members who maybe are vulnerable, who are ill, and we don't have the support of our colleagues in the same way. So I think there are huge kind of issues of equity and access kind of inherent in all of this. But on the other side of this, I have seen a really interesting movement happen here in the UK, completely spontaneous. And it's this idea of, the transition from the individualistic to the more collective approach to how we live our lives. And one day on Twitter, someone shared a link to a Google document, which was just a great big spreadsheet where people were saying, okay, I'm willing to be the nominated person for my community, and I want to form a mutual support group within the community. And this was available to be shared with everyone, so you could see, if you lived somewhere, how to contact some of these groups are formed on Facebook or whatever, and using social media, but they were also very much formed on the basis of what can I do or what can I give to the community at a time like this? And the flip side of that is, what do I need from my community at a time like this? A real sort of embodiment of spontaneity, of mutuality, and of reciprocity. And I must say, it was one of the first things that I found the first couple of weeks of this difficult for various reasons. And that brought a real spark of hope into my life. Like we started off with talking about how this has to come from our hearts and our feelings. We can't just deal with this with our brains. Our brains and our hearts are, essential parts of this together. And that gave me actually a surprising amount of hope. And I know that, for example, in our university, we're focusing much more at the moment on teaching and learning and the quality of the student experience, but there are little nubs going through of people who are now wanting to capture the good things and the community engagement that has started up without the university perhaps, but ways in which the university could become part of that. Kind of going back to what is the civic role of the university, if you like, especially in these difficult times. So, I mean, I've loads to say, but I'll stop.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very, and those of you who haven't had a chance to speak, there will be, more opportunities. This is the first effort. We wanted to get an idea of, trying this out and to see whether or not whether we can make it work technologically. And it seems like we can. There have been 34 or 35 people on this, which is amazing. I thought we'd have 15 to 20. Let me just in a second, Suriani is going to say something about next steps. I can't begin to summarize, this very rich conversation, although we will try to, Suriani and I will try to capture this in some text, which we'll share with you. And of course, share with the next conversation, the Eastern Hemispheric conversation, which some of you will also be in. I think that what I'm hearing is, first of all, it's very important for us to be together, to come together. With all of the limitations and so forth, that the old-fashioned idea of solidarity, is more important than ever. That the power of sharing stories from different cultures, different language groups, different epistemological bases, the multiplicity of stories, the diversity of stories is power. And so the very act of just coming together, people like ourselves coming together, who are believe in in a diversity of knowledges is already an act of creativity and resistance and transformation. Secondly, I think that the conversation is about it's from the daily lived experience to towards a new planetary consciousness, and the various ones, Irma and all of you have spoken to moving, that we are in a time where science, in the kind of narrow sense, Western oriented rational science, is no longer, it's shown to not to be sufficient for the solutions that we need. So moving beyond rationality. I think that we also can, there's a lot of just plain practical tips, the mobile phone, Mary's example of the spreadsheet, how people are, hooking up, in various ways. Andrea's very interesting thing about the, about coffee. I forget the exact phrase of it, but the idea of of sharing, pre-buying the coffee for the next person. All of those are practical tips we can share. I think Orla's idea of making a list of episodic interventions is excellent, as well the idea of the role of the arts, celebrating the various artistic ways in which people are surviving and moving forward, is important. I think that Andrea and Leslie, both of you spoke. Andrea gave the words to us, enlarging the questioning communities, and the idea that the conversation, each of our hubs, each of our locations. So some of us are in formal hubs, some of us are not. To enlarge the questioning community so that our community partners are part of this conversation. So it's not just people like ourselves, because we don't have the answers. we are products of, you know, the Western knowledge system, and we now see that we are in fact part of the problem, if not part of the solution. So we need to enlarge the questioning community, and we need to you know, to find ways to engage with a multiplicity of visions. So I'm going to leave that as, you know, as just a few thoughts in terms of wrapping up, and turn it over to Suriani for the next steps. And Suriani, you will have the last word.
Yeah, so I just like to add on a little bit. You know, the discussion has been very engaging, and from what I'm hearing, that in the new world, it seems like we would have to go back to basics. I mean, we're talking about online learning and transitioning to online learning when there are places that can't even have clean water. You know, we are encouraging people to wash their hands every 30 minutes or so, every couple hours, but some people don't even have access to water. So before we could even think about the online technological side, I think it's necessary that we look at the basic needs of different communities in different parts of the world. Another thing that I would like to bring up is that, you know, it's also important that before we work on the bigger issues, we also have to talk about the self as a community. I'm, you know, anticipating that during this pandemic, anxiety is increasing, depression is increasing, as some people in the comment chat are saying, you know, gender-based violence are increasing. So those are also important issues that we need to look into as a community as well as individuals, where one would have to first feel safe and secure before, you know, you could even think about working from home or doing online learning and, you know, things like that. So those are just my 2 cents. I would like to thank the panelists and everyone else for sharing. And as for our next steps, you know, as suspected that there are much more that we can talk about and discuss. So the UNESCO Chair per se has the UNESCO Chair has launched a discussion forum accessible to all K4C mentors. So if you go to the website, UNESCO Chair website, which I'm going to paste here in the chats, and then if you go under the K4C tab, you'll see discussion forum. So that's where we'll continue this discussion more in depth. What you need to do is just create an account, and then you can start commenting about ideas, intervention, innovative way to move forward in this pandemic together and to navigate this so-called new world. And we were also thinking of hosting a monthly webinar as such, but, you know, having one hub in charge every month. That is one idea that we've come up with. And if you agree, and if you, you know, would like to participate in that, we also recommend for you to comment in the discussion forum. And yeah, I think that's all from me today. If there's nothing else from you, Bud.
No, just a huge thanks, you know, deep respect to each of you, and wishing you all the very best in these difficulties, very difficult, but in the same time, you know, kind of exciting times that we're living in, and we look forward to, you know, to building our, you know, building solidarity amongst ourselves and extending, you know, our our questioning community, you know, to more and more of our community partners. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening or a good day, depending on where in the world you are. And we look forward to hearing from some of the other mentors who will be meeting tomorrow on the same topic. And all of this will be put together, and it'll be made available to everybody. So blessings to everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Hi, Alfie.
Thank you.
Hello, and bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So
Hello,
Bye,
Alfie.
Karen.
Bye.
Orla, I got your message. Thanks.
Bye, Alfie. Bye, Bob. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Irma. Honest, not
There you go.
It's like people don't want to leave. Is it?
Yes, I like.
Oh,
I like to leave last.
yeah, I'm missing you.
Let's connect
Missing
later.
all of you so much.
Bye, Isabel.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
Everybody again.
That's it.
Yeah, great. Suriani, if you and we may want to have a chat
Yeah,
on
I'll
just
stay
on the telephone, and then we can
Okay.
we'll leave it. So I'll say goodbye as well.
Yeah.